They called him family. They sat at his table, ate his food, laughed at his jokes. He was there for birthdays, for Christmas mornings, for every family gathering that mattered. And when their world fell apart, when they lost the two people who meant everything to them, he was the one who stepped up. He promised to protect them. He promised to keep them safe. He looked them in the eyes and said the words every frightened child needs to hear. "I've got you. You're going to be okay." But he lied, because behind closed doors, away from prying eyes, something else was happening. Something that would shatter two young girls in ways they couldn't even put into words. Something that would steal their innocence, their trust, their childhood. This is the true story of Emma and Lily Carter, twin sisters, 22 years old, inseparable since birth. And this is the story of how the man they called Uncle Robert, the man they trusted like a father, became the person who destroyed them. Before we begin, please subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps us share more true stories and reach people who need to hear them. Because some stories, they need to be told. Emma and Lily Carter came into this world together on a bright September morning in 2003, 22 years ago, in a small hospital in Portland, Maine. Their mother, Sarah, used to tell them they held hands the moment they were born. Two identical girls with the same brown eyes, the same dimples, the same way of tilting their heads when they were curious. Their father, Daniel, called them his double blessing. He was a mechanic who worked long hours but never missed a bedtime story. Sarah was a nurse who did night shifts but always made it home for breakfast. They weren't rich. They lived in a modest two-bedroom house on Maple Street where the paint was chipping and the porch creaked when you walked across it. But they were happy. They were a family. The twins were 8 years old when everything changed. It was February. Cold. The kind of cold that makes your breath fog up and your fingers go numb even inside gloves. Daniel and Sarah were driving home from a Valentine's Day dinner, just the two of them, a rare night out. They'd left the girls with a babysitter. Emma remembered her mother's perfume when she kissed them goodbye. Lily remembered her father promising to bring back dessert. They never made it home. A drunk driver ran a red light at the intersection of 4th and Main. The impact killed them instantly. The police said they didn't suffer. That was supposed to be a comfort. It wasn't. The twins were suddenly orphans, 8 years old and alone in a world that had just stopped making sense. There were distant relatives, cousins they barely knew, an aunt in California who sent Christmas cards but never visited. But it was Robert who stepped forward. Robert Chen, their mother's younger brother, 35 years old, unmarried, living in the house where he and Sarah had grown up. The house where their own mother, the twins' grandmother, Diane, had lived until she passed away 2 years earlier. Robert worked as an accountant, quiet, responsible, a man who paid his bills on time and kept his lawn mowed. He wasn't warm, exactly. He didn't crack jokes or throw you up in the air like their dad did. But he was family, and in that moment when the ground had fallen out from under them, family was all they had. The funeral was the worst day of Emma's and Lily's young lives. They stood in matching black dresses, holding hands so tight their knuckles turned white, staring at two closed caskets they couldn't quite understand. People kept touching their shoulders, saying things like, "They're in a better place," and "Be strong for each other." Robert stood beside them, his hand on Emma's shoulder, steady and solid. After the service, after everyone had left and the house felt too big and too empty, he sat them down at the kitchen table. He looked at them with serious eyes and said, "I know this is hard. I know you're scared. But I promise you, I'm going to take care of you. You're not alone. You'll never be alone." And they believed him. Because what choice did they have? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Moving into Robert's house felt like stepping into a museum. Everything was so clean, so organized, so quiet. The walls were beige. The furniture was brown. There were no toys scattered on the floor, no crayons left out on the table, no laughter echoing through the hallways. But it was home now, the only home they had left. Robert converted the guest room into a bedroom for them. He bought them matching bedspreads, hung up a few posters of animals they liked, made space in the closet for their clothes. He wasn't good at the emotional stuff. He didn't hug them much or ask how they were feeling, but he made sure they had everything they needed: food on the table, clean clothes, rides to school. As the years went by, they adjusted. You can adjust to almost anything when you're a kid. The pain of losing their parents never went away, but it changed shape. It became something they carried with them instead of something that crushed them. Emma threw herself into school. She was the responsible one, the one who got straight A's and joined the debate team and planned every detail of her future. Lily was the creative one. She painted, wrote poetry, spent hours with her headphones on, lost in her own world. They were different in small ways, but they were always together. Two halves of the same whole. Robert was there for all of it. When Emma won the spelling bee in 5th grade, he drove her there and sat in the audience, clapping politely. When Lily got her first period and was too embarrassed to ask for help, he left a box of pads outside the bathroom door with a note that said, "Let me know if you need anything else." It was awkward, sure, but he tried. He showed up. He drove them to soccer practice, to piano lessons, to sleepovers at friends' houses. He helped with homework, signed permission slips, attended parent-teacher conferences. He wasn't their father. He would never be their father. But he was their guardian, their family, the person they depended on for everything. By the time they reached high school, life had found a rhythm. They had friends, hobbies, dreams for the future. Emma wanted to be a lawyer. Lily wanted to study art in New York. They talked about college, about moving out, about the lives they would build for themselves one day. Robert encouraged them. He talked about scholarships, about application deadlines, about how proud their parents would have been. He told them he wanted them to succeed. He told them he wanted them to be happy. And they believed him. Because he was Uncle Robert, the man who had given up his quiet, solitary life to raise them. The man who had never once complained, never once made them feel like a burden. How could they not trust him? They were 16 when everything changed. 16 years old, in their junior year of high school, starting to think about SATs and college visits and prom dresses. It was a Friday night in October. Crisp air, falling leaves, the smell of wood smoke drifting through the neighborhood. Emma had gone to a friend's house for a sleepover, some big movie marathon thing with a group of girls from school. Lily had been invited too, but she wasn't feeling well. A headache that had started that afternoon and wouldn't go away. So she stayed home. Told Emma to go without her. Said she'd just rest, maybe watch TV, go to bed early. Robert was home too. He'd been working in his office most of the evening, doing taxes for a client, typing away on his computer behind the closed door. Around 9 o'clock, Lily was lying on the couch in the living room, half watching some sitcom rerun, wrapped in a blanket. She heard his office door open, heard his footsteps in the hallway. He came into the living room and asked if she needed anything. Aspirin, maybe. Water. She said no, she was fine, just tired. He nodded. Sat down in the armchair across from her, started asking her about school, about her classes, about how she was doing. Normal stuff, uncle stuff. But then, something shifted. It's hard to explain, hard to put into words. The way the air in the room changed. The way his questions got more personal. He asked if she had a boyfriend. If boys at school ever made her uncomfortable. If she knew she could talk to him about anything. She said yeah, of course, but she felt uneasy. Like the conversation was going somewhere she didn't want to follow. He stood up, came over to the couch, sat down next to her, closer than he usually did. Said she looked tense, said he could help her relax. What happened next? It's the kind of thing that breaks a person. The kind of thing that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the world, about safety, about family, about the people you're supposed to be able to trust. He touched her, not in the way an uncle touches a niece, not in any way that could be explained away or misunderstood. He touched her, and she froze. Every muscle in her body locked up. Her brain screamed at her to move, to run, to fight, but she couldn't. She just froze, like a deer in headlights, like every horror story she'd ever heard but never thought would happen to her. She doesn't remember all of it. Her mind has blocked out pieces, merciful gaps in the memory that leave only fragments. The feel of his hand, the sound of his voice, low and calm, telling her it was okay, telling her to relax, telling her not to be scared. The way the room seemed to tilt and blur. The way her own body felt like it didn't belong to her anymore. And then, it was over. He stood up, straightened his shirt, told her to get some rest, told her not to say anything, because no one would believe her anyway. Who would believe that he, Robert Chen, respected accountant, devoted uncle, had done something like this? It would only cause problems. It would tear the family apart. Better to just forget it ever happened. He left the room. Lily stayed on the couch, staring at the TV without seeing it, her whole body shaking, tears streaming down her face in silence. She didn't move for hours, didn't know what to do, where to go, who to tell. This was Uncle Robert, the man who raised her, the man who had taken her in when she had no one else. How could this be real? How could this be happening? When Emma came home the next morning, bright and cheerful, full of stories about the sleepover, Lily couldn't even look at her. She said she was still feeling sick, went to their room, locked the door. Emma knocked, asked if she was okay, and Lily said yes, just tired, just needed to sleep. But she wasn't okay. She would never be okay again. Not in the same way, because something inside her had broken, something that couldn't be fixed with time or band-aids or whispered reassurances. And the worst part, it didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, it happened again and again. When Emma was out, when the house was quiet, when no one else was around to see, Robert would find her, corner her, touch her. And every time she froze, every time her voice disappeared, every time she told herself maybe this time she'd fight back, maybe this time she'd scream, but she never did. She just endured it, survived it, hated herself for not being strong enough to stop it. She stopped eating, started having nightmares, jumped at every sound. Emma noticed something was wrong, kept asking what was going on, but Lily couldn't tell her. How do you tell your twin sister, your other half, the person you've shared everything with since birth, that the man raising you is hurting you? How do you say those words out loud without breaking into a million pieces? So she stayed silent, kept the secret, let it eat her alive from the inside out. And then, one night, Emma found out. It was late, past midnight, and Emma had gotten up to get water. She heard a sound from the hallway, quiet, muffled. She followed it to Lily's room, and when she opened the door, she saw him, Uncle Robert, sitting on the edge of Lily's bed. Lily pressed against the wall, her face streaked with tears, her eyes wide and terrified. And Emma understood. In that one horrible, crushing instant, she understood everything. She screamed, actually screamed, loud enough to wake the neighborhood. Robert jumped back, started talking fast, trying to explain, trying to calm her down, but Emma wasn't listening. She grabbed Lily, pulled her out of the room, locked themselves in the bathroom. She held her sister while Lily sobbed, whole body shaking sobs that sounded like something dying. Emma was crying too, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? I should have known, I should have protected you." But Lily just shook her head, said it wasn't Emma's fault, said she didn't know how to tell her. They stayed in that bathroom until morning, didn't sleep, didn't talk much, just held each other. When the sun came up, Robert knocked on the door, said they needed to talk, said he could explain. Emma told him to go away. told him if he came near them again, she'd call the police. He went quiet. After a few minutes, they heard his footsteps retreating down the hallway. The next few days were a blur. Emma and Lily barely left their room. They whispered plans, talked through options, tried to figure out what to do. Emma wanted to call the police immediately, wanted Robert arrested, locked up, punished for what he'd done. But Lily was terrified. She kept saying, "What if they don't believe us? What if they think I'm lying? What if they take us away and put us in foster care?" They had no other family, no one else to turn to. If they reported Robert, if they blew up their lives, where would they go? What would happen to them? Robert, for his part, acted like nothing had happened. He went to work, came home, made dinner, knocked on their door and asked if they wanted to eat. They ignored him, stayed in their room, ate granola bars and crackers they'd stashed away. Emma barely slept, always keeping one eye on the door, always positioning herself between Lily and any potential danger. Lily stopped talking much, just stared at the wall, lost in her own head, replaying everything that had happened, wondering what she could have done differently. At school, people started noticing. Emma, who was always the star student, started missing assignments. Lily, who used to paint during lunch, stopped bringing her sketchbook. Their friends asked if they were okay, if something was wrong at home. Emma said everything was fine. Lily said nothing at all. They drifted through the hallways like ghosts, present but not really there, going through the motions of normal teenage life while carrying a weight no one else could see. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after Emma had walked in on Robert, their English teacher, Mrs. Patterson, asked Emma to stay after class. She was a kind woman in her 50s, the type who actually cared about her students, who noticed when something was off. She closed the door, sat down across from Emma, and said gently, "I'm worried about you. You and your sister. You haven't been yourselves lately. Is everything okay at home?" And Emma broke. She started crying, right there in the classroom, big gulping sobs she couldn't control. Mrs. Patterson came over, put her hand on Emma's shoulder and said, "Whatever it is, you can tell me. You're safe here." And so Emma told her. Not all of it, not the graphic details, but enough. She said their uncle had hurt Lily, had been hurting her, that they didn't know what to do, where to go, who to tell. Mrs. Patterson's face went pale. She took Emma's hand and said very clearly, very firmly, "This is not your fault. Do you understand me? This is not your fault, and it's not Lily's fault. What happened is a crime."